We're here today in Marblehead, Massachusetts, an affluent coastal town known for its fishing fleet and sailing community. It's a town that likes its lawns and homes and gardens just so. It's also a town that's learned to just say no to lawn chemicals and pesticides. Ever since broadleaf weed killers were introduced by the Scotts Company in the late 1940s, the residents of Marblehead, Massachusetts were like everyone else. In their quest to keep their grass green and their dandelions and clover dead, the residents spread their share of the 30 million pounds of weed killers that American homeowners use annually. That began to change soon after Pat Beckett moved to town.
Well, I got involved in pesticide awareness and organic turf management really 20 years ago when my children were babies. I was living in suburban New York, and like many a mother, pushing a stroller on the sidewalk, seeing that little yellow lawn sign warning me to stay off the grass, don't let my children play on the grass. And that's when I first started to ask questions about, well, what does that mean? Why are we poisoning our lawn? Why is it dangerous for a child to play on grass?
As Pat continued to ask those questions, she found a keen ally in a lifelong Marblehead greenhouse grower.
My background was in traditional greenhouse floriculture when I started back in 1974. And to be perfectly honest, my education and the way I conducted my business back then involved the heavy use of chemicals inside the greenhouse.
Horticultural professionals from the State University taught Chip Osborne that chemicals were needed to grow plants. But a painful personal tragedy made him, too, ask questions.
I had a pair of dogs here that lived with me at the greenhouse. I had Jessie and Sadie. This is a mother and daughter. And they spent 24 hours a day with me. At that time, I was working 16 or 17-hour days. In the heat of the summer, they used to sleep under my greenhouse benches in the cool, moist soil. That soil was the same soil that collected the runoff of these fungicides and other products from my flower pots. And both dogs died prematurely young with stomach cancer and ovarian cancer.
Did you feel like you were responsible for their death?
Yeah, I really did. When I saw her stomach completely covered in open sores and tumors that would continually bleed and watched her die, it was initially that association in my mind that was how she died, was through my use of toxins.
Together, the housewife and the professional horticulturist decided it was time to share their concerns. They approached the town officers about acquiring a demonstration plot, a place to prove they could grow lawns and gardens without chemicals. Their project, The Living Lawn, was planted in 1997.
Seeing is believing, and people needed something more than a piece of paper or people talking at them about why be concerned. They needed to come and see. You could have beautiful grass, you could protect your property values, and still not use toxic pesticides, that there was a way to do it.
Utilizing only natural fertilizers, including generous coatings of compost, and hand weeding only when necessary, the Living Lawn soon became living proof that an organic system could work. Beckett and Osborne didn't stop there, however. They formed a group, the Marblehead Pesticide Awareness Committee, and won an extraordinary declaration from the town's Board of Health.
Part of our work with our Board of Health was to get them to educate the public about this issue, and also to protect the public from pesticide exposure because of the known health effects. And so our Board of Health looked at that and decided to adopt an organic pest management policy for all of town land, which prohibited the use of pesticides on our town land, including our athletic playing fields.
For one Marblehead resident in particular, the banning of pesticide applications could not have come soon enough. Tom Hammond has worked for the town's park department since high school.
When I began initially, I sprayed a lot of chlorinated hydrocarbons, and we used chloridane and DDT and some of the other things that are banned now. And we used them in the ground to treat insects and turf. And in 1983, I developed thyroid cancer. And one of the questions was with some of the thyroid cancer was some of the herbicides that I had used to spray poison ivy, and also the herbicides that we used on the lawns, along with the chemicals. I also was diagnosed in 1996 with Parkinson's disease, and most of the literature questions whether you've had exposure to pesticides or chemicals.
Coming up next, we'll tour Marblehead's organic playing fields, meet converted homeowners, and talk to scientists and doctors.